406. Alright, if I could just figure out how to get this thermos open. Alright. Oh, the thermos has a lock on it. How about that? I guess to keep out burglars. I can't. I don't even know how to. Oh. What is it about a thermos? When you pour coffee, it seems like you're pouring so much into a thermos. And then when you pour it, it seems like there's so little in it when you pour it out. I don't know. Pardon me while I cauterize my stomach ulcers. Oh my God. I had a stomach virus. Oh yeah. This is chalking up to be... First I had the super flu from hell. And now I have... by the way, I looked it up. Listen. Number one, it was throwing up 24 hours this way, 12 hours out the back door. And I looked it up. I said, what is going on with me? 24 hours of retching. I mean, the worst feeling in the world has got to be throwing up. Hands down. I lost 20 pounds. Look, 20 pounds. You can handcuff me with a key ring. Oh my God, I'm still not. This happened Monday. I got it on Monday. I'm still reeling. I'm in a tailspin. I can't eat anything. My stomach... I was throwing up black. Black, like ink. Like halfway through throwing up, 12 hours into throwing up, I just started throwing up black. I said, Jesus Christ, that's not normal. So I look on Google. When you throw up black, you know what that is? That's blood getting into your digestive system. And the acids from your digestive system are oxidizing the iron in your blood, and it turns black. Essentially throwing up rusty blood. And I'm like, what is happening to me? When I shifted from vom, and what is it about vomiting? I'm sorry, Ay, ay, ay. Just thinking about it is turning my stomach. And when you throw up, you don't want... I don't know about you, but I don't want to hear anything from anybody. I don't want to hear birds chirping outside. I don't want to have somebody rubbing my back, telling me it's okay. I feel like a rabid dog drinking water. Why does that's stupid? A rabid dog. I don't know. I just remember petting the dog while he was eating food once, and he growled at me. And I'm throwing up, and my son is laughing in the living room. He thinks it's funny. And I remember just sitting there, so weak, and throwing up, and like tears rolling out of my eyes. I felt like being like, it's not funny! It's not funny! It's not funny, guys. Oh my God. So then I'm in bed, writhing around in pain because for some reason it's got a stomach virus has also got to twist your back up like a fucking pretzel. And I'm reading, and apparently there's some type of G24 strain of super stomach virus flu coming over from Australia. I'm like, great, I have an Australian stomach flu. I have the Mad Max of stomach flus. Oh my Christ. I lost 18 pounds in 2 days. I can't even keep my pants up. I can't keep my pants up normally because I have no ass. Lose 18 pounds on top of that. It's like trying to pull pants up on an ice cream cone. But I tell you what, after that whole bout of throwing up was over, I mean, even like you take a sip of water and next thing you know, you're throwing it up. Oh, you know what you do when you're done throwing up and you break out into that sweat? You break out into that really cold sweat while you're throwing up. And then you get that 5 minutes of where it's like almost like euphoria. It's not euphoria, you just feel normal for 5 minutes. And normal from being in hell, you know, a minute ago feels like euphoria. I mean, it feels like you just, I don't know, maybe you did a hit or something. And I roll over onto the bathroom floor, onto those cold tiles, and it's just like, anyhow. And do you think I can get any sympathy in my house? My wife just looks at me with disdain. You're overreacting. Da 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 da. Is it that bad? Bah, 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 bah. I gotta call my mother to get sympathy. My mother's the only person I can call that I can actually give me some sympathy when I'm throwing up. We have this thing like we should have a two-way radio for each other when we're throwing up. We have it's. No, thank God for my mother, I tell you right now. She's the only one that cares. I understood then why men on the battlefield cry out, "Mommy." I thought I was going to die. Let me tell you something. I was in my worst state. I'm laying in bed. I swear to God, I'm laying in bed. And I'm saying, oh my God, I was moaning and groaning uncontrollably. Couldn't control it. The moans and the groans. Everybody in the house is yelling at me. I said, I can't help it. They're just coming out. And I'm laying there in the dark. And I'm thinking about the men of World War I. Who remember when the Germans were like, the wind would blow a certain direction and they just crank open the gas bottles and the nervic gas would go across, or the mustard gas would go across the battlefield and just kill tens of thousands of men. They would sit there with like blood would come out of every hole of their body and they would just sit there and die. And I'm sitting there in this vicious pain and I'm thinking to myself, there are men that died on a battlefield, on some muddy battlefield somewhere, in worse conditions. And they knew they weren't coming back out of it. At least I had a glimmer of hope that I was going to get better. But they knew they were going to die. And I saw their faces. I was hallucinating. I saw all their faces. And oh my God, did it leave this morbid feeling inside of me. Why should Shkamata Mingamata Moo? But the human body's an amazing thing, man. When you turn that corner and there's that glimmer that you're going to get better, oh my God, you almost get supercharged. I remember as soon as I could hold something down, I remember sitting on the couch and pouring myself a glass of water about this big and just being like, and just like trying to taste every molecule that was going down my throat and being so grateful for it It was the best glass of water I ever had in my life. And just feeling my body, it was almost like I could feel every passage open in my body to accept that water. Oh, it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. I don't know, you guys want to keep on going on about my stomach virus? We got a long show. It's going to be a long show. All right? So I hope you're prepared. Here we go. Listen. My tape. Let me get this over with. All right. All right. Let me talk about, I talk about this guy a lot. He's my boyfriend, Trevor. That's what my girlfriend calls him now. Because we text each other at like all hours of the night. And my girlfriend, who's that, your boyfriend now? Because I'm sitting there texting him in bed for like a half hour. And it's Trevor. We all know Trevor. Trevor's a good friend of mine. Great friend of the show. And Trevor knows somebody who closed out a really substantial video game collection. And the guy is hooking up Trevor in major ways. Major ways. And Trevor's passing that along to us. Trevor's generosity, I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay it back. I really don't. The kid's got to knock it off. Basically. Because I can't keep up with it. And I won't accept it much longer. Because I'm not that type of guy. We've been taking handouts on this show, but I plan on paying it back with work, one way or another. So Trevor came up with this deal for me. We went in on a deal together. So I don't. This is not Trevor selling me stuff. This is Trevor telling me he came up with a killer deal and he wanted me to go in on it. So the deal was $150. We came up with a price of $150, and to be honest with you, I cringed a little because we're doing this whole complete NES collection, and $100 can go really far in that. So I felt like I was betraying the plan a little bit. But I mean, I think when you guys see the stuff that we got for $150, it's not just a good deal. It's a very nostalgic deal for me. So I just couldn't turn my back on it, and I thought it would be good for the show. It's the duck's guts, Maxie. Isn't that what the goose says in Mad Max? It's the duck's guts. Oh boy. Who doesn't love Australia? I talked to a few people that have traveled the world. One guy was a salesman for Honeywell, like a security company. Or what? Honeywell, the guys that make those fucking thermostats. And he travels all over the world. China, Japan, you name it. Europe, South America. And he was retiring, and he telling me how he can't stand getting on airplanes anymore. That was a mind bender to me. I was like, that sounds like the greatest job in the world, flying all over the world. Anyhow, so I said to him, hey, where's your favorite place to go? He said, Australia. He didn't even hesitate. He said, Australia. So, I don't know what you guys got going on down there. But it's not the first time I've heard that. All right. here we go. Guys, I don't know if you can see through the bubble wrap here. We got some Sega games. So let's do this. Let's pull them out at random, shall we? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Flashback. Guys, who didn't fall in love with Out of This World? I remember renting the Out of This World with my buddy Phil. Oh my God, the graphics. You've never seen anything like it in your life. It was almost like, at that time, you had arcades like Dragon's Lair, which is these animated arcades. This, you were playing, it was almost like you were playing an animated game. I don't know how to explain it. It had these wonderful graphics. Oh, and what a wonderful storyline. And just that opening scene when you run from that monster and you meet up with your friend who saves your life. It was so dramatic. I mean, wow, Out of This World. And to be honest with you, it felt so pure on the Super Nintendo. And I think it lost a little on the Sega Genesis. But where the Sega Genesis won was with the sequel. And I think Flashback is probably the best version of this game that I've seen for the Sega Genesis. Holy cow. 12 meg. 12 meg. You have no idea what a big deal that was. Oh, tremendous power. Tremendous power. Where at the time, most games were... let's face it, when the Sega Genesis started, most games were what? 2 or 4 megs? And then, like, in the middle of the Sega Genesis popularity, it was 8 meg, baby. 8 meg, 8 meg. And then from there, games started reaching out. 12 meg, 24 meg. And that's what we looked at when we looked in the video game magazines. When it came to Sega Genesis, I wanted to know how many megs. That's what I needed to know. So that was a very important little icon on the box. Wow, Flashback. Oh, hey. The Quest for Identity. The CD-ROM game in a cartridge. They're not lying. They're not lying. All right. Oh, my God. How do we get to this one? The very next one. Here we go. This one is... oh my God. The greatest RPG series in history. I don't know. When I think of my favorite RPGs of all time, of course I'm going to think Ys, but I'm going to also think Phantasy Star 2. Phantasy Star 2 being, oh my God. My experience with Phantasy Star 2, it was the first really hardcore, futuristic role-playing game I ever played. So I followed the Phantasy Star series all the way up to this masterpiece right here, Phantasy Star 4. The heartbreaker with this, and when Trevor sent me pictures of this, I said, oh my God, I've never seen Phantasy Star 4 in the hard case. That's because it never came in the hard case. The guy, whoever owned this before, actually cut up the cardboard box and slipped it as an insert in the hard case. Oh. I know. But it's, the game and the manual are in beautiful condition. So, I'll probably be able to find a new box, at the thrift store, right? Anyhow, that's a heartbreaker, but Phantasy Star 4, oh my God. It was, when you played Phantasy Star 2, it was such this beyond epic quest. And then we all know about Phantasy Star for the Sega Genesis, but I just never grew up with that one. So I played that one later on in my life. Amazing game. But it was really Phantasy Star 2 that did it for me. And then I played Phantasy Star 3 and I was like, what? I remember renting it a few times and then being like, eh. And then I went back later on and played it and beat it. And then this was a callback to Phantasy Star 2. This was like Phantasy Star 2 on steroids. And the story and everything like this. I mean, 24 megs of fierce role-playing challenge with battery backup. The largest RPG ever for the Genesis. It's right there. I hit 24 megs, the hairs go up. Sip of coffee for 24 megs. Here we go. I guess Sega's answer. Who developed this game anyhow? Was this Sega? I guess. I don't know. It's Sega's answer to Street Fighter 2. Was it the most competent response to Street Fighter 2 they put out? It's Eternal Champions. I would say this is Sega taking Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat and smashing it together, because you had these sprite-based graphics with fatalities, and the fatalities are great. The fatalities in this game are only rivaled by the Sega CD version, and I suggest anybody go check out like a compilation of Eternal Champions fatalities. They're wonderful. They're great. This is pure Sega, baby. This is ultra violent. It's what every kid was looking for. Great graphics. Wow. No mention of meg size, but Eternal Champions. We rented this game and we had a lot of fun with it. Phil and I. Oh, yeah. Here you go. It's fit. There we go. Look at this. Let's just show you the instruction manual, okay? To me, when it comes to EA games like Fairy Tale, beautiful copy of the game. This is like the testicles of the video game. Look at that instruction manual. With my reading comprehension, it would take me years to get through this. Unbelievable. Fairy Tale, I mean, you're going to hear mixed opinions about this game. This game, frustrating to most people, simply amazing to me when I was a kid. These are the Electronic Arts RPGs that were brought over from the computer. And as far as I was concerned, I was playing a computer role-playing game. And it had a bigger box for some reason, which reminded you of computer games, and not much bigger, but bigger. And it had that big instruction manual. And I really felt like when I played this game, I was on a quest that nobody had played before. I felt like I was buying a Sega Genesis game that nobody else would bother with. This was the game that if you went into school and told, hey, what are you playing? I'm playing Fairy Tale. You would have got blank stares. I like that. Yeah, here we go. Here's another one. This is one that I've never played before, but I've always been curious about. By New World Computing. Again, another Electronic Arts fantasy adventure game, right? Wow, here we go. Do battle with 25 deadly fantasy creatures. Weave spells to aid in your quest. This one I can't wait to try. It's one that I always saw in the rental store, but we just never pulled the trigger on it. Yeah. Well, hey, Risk. Yes. Classic Mortal Kombat. Not much to say about this other than the fact that when Phil and I rented Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo, it was one of the most disappointing rentals we've ever made because when you got Mortal Kombat, you expected blood and violence. And when these guys started hitting each other and you saw sweat instead of blood, it was just like Nintendo really let us down. And we had the Super Nintendo and we had the Sega Genesis, and it almost and then we rented Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis, and even as kids we were pissed at Nintendo. We knew Nintendo was appealing to kids more than younger adults and adults. We knew that. The Nintendo was the kiddie system. Right, we knew it had great games on it, but we would also get pissed at it. And that's where the Sega Genesis came in with what I think is the definitive home console version of the original Mortal Kombat. Yeah. We were probably playing Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo and listening to the Wu-Tang Clan or Brand Nubian. Phil, turn down the Brand Nubian. Do you hear the or we're listening to Funkmaster Flex on the radio? Turn down the Brand Nubian so we can discuss why sweat instead of blood is flying out of the guy's head. Oh, here we go. Oh boy, I'm so happy to have this. Here we go. Another EA classic. I don't know. I've never played it before. But I can tell you this is a game that I always wanted. And it starts in the Busy Bee Mall. Here we go. Back in the 80s. Crew Ball. Crew Ball. Now, I was a big Iron Maiden head back in the 80s, and I remember there was a metal shop. That was a thing. You would go to Busy Bee Mall. It was kind of like a flea market, indoor flea market. And they had a place, it was a metal shop. They sold knives, heavy metal t-shirts, heavy metal tapes, heavy metal records. Oh, to go back. You know, the guy sitting there at the register looked like a ball of hair. What do you do? He sat in that stool. What are you probably reading Pano magazines? Who knows? He wasn't on. People that work in the indoor flea markets now have it made because they could just sit in that stool and crap out on their phone all day. And they got something to do. What did they do back then? Read the paper? What was this metalhead kid doing sitting in the corner on a stool? Listen to music with his Walkman? Anyhow, I remember walking through Busy Bee and somebody had I don't know, I was into Iron Maiden. I had an Iron Maiden shirt, patch on the back of my jacket, you know? And I saw this metalhead kid and he had a Motley Crue shirt on. And it had this guy. I don't even know what they call that guy. And I remember thinking to myself, whoa, you know, what band is that? You know, he was no Eddie Maiden. But I remember thinking to myself, wow, what was that? And then Crew Ball came out, and it just reminded me of that heavy metal shop. And I was like, oh, man, I got to get Crew Ball. This is pinball with what? The ultimate heavy metal pinball concert is about to begin. Ah, blistering soundtrack features 3 Motley Crue hits. Special appearance by Motley Crue's Alistair Fiend. That's his name. Woo! Nice. Loads of skill shots and nasty enemies. Wow. I mean, listen, I don't know how this stacks up against, say, Devil's Crush or Alien's Crush. Those masterpieces on the TurboGrafx. But, wow. Cool. Cool to have Crew Ball. Just for the box art alone, I'm happy. Featuring Motley Crue hits, Dr. Feelgood, Home Sweet Home, and Live Wire. Oh yeah, baby. Wow, she's minty. She's minty. Oh my God. One of the greatest Sega Genesis games of all time. Hands down. Intergalactic space adventure. You're at the helm. I mean, you pop this cartridge in and you instantly transform into Captain Kirk. I'm losing command of the Enterprise. I'm not going to do, I can't do Captain Kirk. Here we go. Look at that. It's beautiful. Look. Oh, you want to talk instruction manual? Look at that. You got about 3 days? This looks like it was just cut on the machine. Oh. Look at this. And this manual, I had to keep myself away from this manual because it had a very significant hint guide in the back, which could basically tell you how to beat the game. So I had to really steer clear of that because, I mean, you start this game and you're like, this game is so epic, it's so vast. You have so many planets. I mean, let's take a look. Take a starship into real-time combat. Hear the sounds of space, rocket thrusters, searing photon blasts, even the digitized voices. Oh, the digitized voice of the ship's computer. Choose a crew from 5 alien races. I mean, when you're reading this, 8 ultra compressed 8 mega cartridge with battery backup save feature, 140-page manual with diagrams, hints, and illustrations. And when you turn this game on, you get an opening theme song that reminds me of like late night. You would turn on like PBS and there would be some type of science fiction show of some guy peering through a telescope. And it always had that intro music that was like, it's like trippy sci-fi. I don't know how to explain it. But that's what the theme music is on Starflight. Oh my, just what a masterpiece of a game. Oh boy, here we go. We are shooting the Sega Genesis load here. Guys, it's Shadowrun, one of the most nostalgic games that you could ever play. That I could ever play for the Sega Genesis. I used to drink vodka and orange juice, screwdrivers, and play Shadowrun. I didn't know what the hell was going on in this game. All I know is I was doing something. Running through the streets. It's the future. Running through the streets, gunning people down. I mean, it felt like I was really breaking the law, and I'm not kidding. You go out and there was these crime factions. And they would run up on you, and you'd shoot the guy dead in the street. It felt like you were like really running around in the street shooting the guy dead. And then going into this basement and killing these things and getting money, killing these zombies or whatever they were, monsters, and collecting money, and then putting on these high-tech armor and buying these high-tech weapons and talking to these seedy characters in hotels and in shops and whatnot, and taking the bus to a next town, or hopping on the subway and going to another town. And you'd come out, and then you go into this sleazy bar and talk to this guy and he'd give you jobs. Go into this corporation, blow this up, come back. Hacking into a computer system. Going through the process of hacking and transforming into this 3D perspective, not 3D, first person perspective, going through a computer system, hacking the system, breaking in. What? What's going on? I never knew what was going on into this game, but I would play it for hours. I had a loose copy cartridge of it. I didn't have the manual. I didn't know. No internet. I didn't know what was going on. But I would play it for hours, and I would load my guy. I said, I might not know how to play this game, but I know how to go out and make money in this game, and I know how to go out and equip myself. And let's go on this adventure. My suggestion to you: buy Shadowrun, take the instruction manual, whip it out the window. and try to figure it the fuck out. Good luck. Love that game. My mouth's getting dry here. Okay. Here we go. I tell you what, I see this cover art right here, and very, very nostalgic cover art right here. I want to paint this on the back of a denim jacket. Here we go. Look at that. I mean, you paint you walk into one of these goddamn video game conventions with that on the back of your denim jacket, and let me tell you something. You might as well be Clint Eastwood at high noon. You watch out for that guy. Wow, it's what in the world? He's going up a staircase that leads to where? The solar system? With a sword. And there's some guy over here with something floating over his head and he's shooting lasers out of his chest? My God almighty. Phantasy Star 3, Generations of Doom. A game that was, I guess, highly misunderstood when it came out. A lot of people expected something and got something else. And people don't like to expect something and get something else. I've always admired the graphics in this game. But it did leave a sour taste in my mouth the first few times playing it. It left a kind of emptiness that I was expecting bigger and better, and I don't think we got that with Phantasy Star 3. You know, everybody's come around now, and let me get my hands on the cocksucker who says, well, you know, Phantasy Star 3 is not my favorite installment of the Phantasy Star series. Let me get my hands on that son of a bitch, because I know he's out there. I know he's out there. And if he's my age, oh my, I'll take him out back and make a man out of him. Because he's full of shit. All right. Oh boy, here we go. Okay. All right, guys, we all know about Shining Force. Started there, right? Shining Force. Okay. I never had Shining Force. I dabbled with a little bit of Shining Force later on when I started building my collection again. Because my experience with Shining Force was Shining Force 3 on the Sega Saturn. And it was maybe my first time, not my first time, but first time in the Sega Saturn playing this type of strategy RPG. Is that what you call it? Wow, 12 megs, battery backup. Sega's largest role-playing game. How many times are you going to say it? Control up to 10 different characters at once, right? It was like playing chess, right? On a three-dimensional topographical map. Right? You had high grounds, low grounds. You can move, at least in Shining Force 3 you did. But notice how they only advertise on the back the battle scenes, where, right, on the map it was almost like a chessboard. The graphics were downgraded, obviously, so they could show all the characters and move everything around. And then when you went into battle mode, of course, you got these fantastic animations of the battle taking place. Slashes, animated spells, right? That's the buzzword I was looking for, animated spells. Now, I had the spin-off of this game. I don't even know if it was a spin-off with this game. I had the dungeon crawler version, Shining in the Darkness. For some reason, Shining Force and Shining in the Darkness, they have to be related in some way or another. I don't know. It just seems that way. But that was the dungeon crawling game with the animated spells. That's what I cared about. I wanted to see lightning strikes You know, it was so unsatisfying to play games like Might and Magic, the early Might and Magic, where you would just see text go by as the battle went on. I wanted to see, even if it was just a slash, that's what was so important about Phantasy Star 2. Animated spells. How about that? Phantasy Star 2, you could get like 50 animated spells. You'd see lightning strikes, ice, particles flying, lasers. You know what I mean? It was these animated spells that brought this graphical interpretation of what the spell looked like, and it was fantastic. But anyway, Shining Force, I played Shining Force 3, and I loved Shining Force 3 on the Sega Saturn. So that brings us to the original Shining Force. But I love how they only show the animations. If it was a bad game, that would be nefarious on Sega's part. All right, I'm starting to look here. Here we go. A very rare game, Sonic 2. All right. Another very rare game here. Taz. I think every lot of Sega Genesis games I ever bought at a garage sale has a copy of Taz in it. I refuse to play this game. Just because I'm sick of looking at it. Another game like that. Sonic Spinball. I want to know how many millions of copies of this game have been made. Excuse me. Tenjin. There we go. Okay. Here's one right here. Landstalker. Now, Landstalker, I believe, did this come out? Because I don't remember Landstalker growing up. Here's an RPG. Incredible 3D graphics created by all new Diamond Dimension System. Wow. There's a seller. Unique 3/4 overview. So I guess this is an isometric view. Action, adventure, and mystery in a fabulous land of strange beasts. Okay. Yeah, Landstalker. I was real curious about this game. Landstalker. Okay, as far as Sega Genesis games go, that's all the Sega games in here, so we'll check this out. Look at that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's 17 Sega Genesis games, the majority of which really tickle the nostalgia bone. Okay. I guess we'll move in this direction next. Wow, this was really interesting. Okay, here we go. A loose copy of Streets of Rage 2. My experience with Streets of Rage is I was never a big fan of Sega Genesis music. It's not that I wasn't a fan of the music. I wasn't a fan of the way the Sega Genesis produced musical sound. And I knew that even as a kid. Some of the games would make you cringe, especially the EA games. It was rough, the bass sounds and whatnot. I've come to appreciate it and love it now. But let's face it, guys. Anybody with a pair of ears back then knew the Sega Genesis, and especially when the Super Nintendo came out. Oh, God. It was like an eargasm when you would hear games like F-Zero. I Try that, Sega. It was like, you heard that music? Horns and this and that. And Final Fantasy? On the Super Nintendo? I mean, come on. It just makes the experience of playing so much better. Anyhow, yeah, Streets of Rage, I used to love to listen to that music. And I used to love calling in the special weapon when the cop car would pull up and the guy would either launch the bazooka or, shoot the Gatling gun. And I think something was muddled with Streets of Rage 2, where they just weren't as cool, those scenes, if I remember correctly. Anyhow. We got something for the ColecoVision here that's very, very interesting. It's got a loose label that needs some re-gluing here. But it's only rock and roll. Now, when I saw... Trevor had sent me a message about this game, asking me if I knew anything about it or something, or if I was interested in it. And I had looked it up. And apparently it's a pretty rare ColecoVision game. But I watched a video on it. It's like you control a rock and roll band. And you guys do shows and like you drum. I would say it's the Oregon Trail with a rock and roll band. How about that? That was a good one. That was a good one. Yes. Fascinating game. I was fascinated by this. I was like, where was this game when I had my ColecoVision? I would have loved this game. Actually, I probably would have been too dumb to understand it back then. All right. Trevor, man, you did some job in the packing, I gotta tell you right now. Packing is unbelievable. Sip of coffee for the packing, huh? That's not going to open, right? There you go. Look at this. Wow. Holy smackerel. That's something you don't see around here in the States too often. It's a Bomberman Super Multi-Tap 2 for the Super Famicom. My God. I wonder how much different your paradigm would have been if you grew up in Japan. During the same years like that you grew up in life. You grew up in Japan. How much different. Look at this. So strange. A multi-tap to play Bomberman for your Super Famicom. How beautiful is that? It's great. Hudson Soft. Okay. That's box number 1. This is a 2-part package. There's a cutter. I guess there was some shooters or some fighting games in this lot. Me and Trevor and I split up this lot. We went in on together, and I think there was some shooters in there that he was interested in. And I remember he showed me the bulk of the games that the guy was looking to sell. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I would love to have this game, this game, this game, this game, this game in my head. And I said, Trevor, what games are you interested in? Or he asked me what games I'm interested in. And he was like interested in all the other ones. It worked out perfectly. It was like, I got what I wanted. He got what he wanted. I mean, it just was a real smooth deal. He's like, I'm not really interested in any of the RPGs. I was like, okay. That's music to my ears. Okay. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Here we go. We got a copy of Golden Axe. I actually wasn't expecting this one. Golden Axe, this is the way... my experience with Golden Axe growing up actually wasn't on the Sega Genesis. It was in the arcade. Wow. Golden Axe was a beast in the arcade. Whew. Jesus Christ. You want to talk about a game that you just wanted to dump your quarters into. It was Golden Axe. Fantastic. And to get this at home, and this was a very, very nice and early game on the Sega Genesis. To get this at home on your console and a decent conversion, it was like, it's happening. It's happening. Very exciting. That's why Street Fighter 2 was so important. Not that it was such a great game, but that it was a near perfect port from the arcade. Do you understand what that meant? What, like, how important? I understood as a kid how important that was. I was like, oh my, because you would go into the arcades and you would play games that would blow away whatever you could get at home on your console. That was the draw to the arcade. And to see, it was Street Fighter 2 that was really the first, it was the pivot point where the home console started to gain momentum and start to overtake and essentially make the arcade extinct. It was beautiful and it was sad at the same time. And Golden Axe ported to the Genesis, decent port right there. Don't get it for the PC Engine. Oh, disgusting. I'd rather have a stomach virus again than play that game. Sip of coffee for how groundbreaking Street Fighter 2 was. Oh wow, this is Trevor right here hooking it up, man. Knowing what a rabid Ease fan I am, he sent us Ease. I guess this is Ease 7 for the PSP. Wow. Very cool. Ease 7. I'm on, let's see, I'm on Ease 4. So, I'll probably get to this in about a decade. And, wow. Okay, anybody ever hear of this game? Here we go. I don't know much about this game. I do remember when it was popular. And when it first came out, and there was a lot of talk about it, and it was very exciting that people were, programming for the Sega Genesis again. But here's a copy, and what really got me going was the fact that this damn thing is 64 high-density megs on the Sega Genesis. And here it is. It's the biggest 16-bit adventure ever. And it's Watermelon's reprint edition of Pure Solar. And it's sealed. And when Trevor told me that this was this was going to be part of the deal, I almost flipped my lid. I thought that was pretty incredible. This was almost like an add-on. So this was you know, a super generous pass-on right here. Wow. What can you say about this? It's you know, I imagine the developers made the Sega Genesis game that they always wanted. And that to me is very exciting. Wow, 4 save slots, outstanding 16-bit graphics. It's got the story on the back there. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Brand new and sealed. Pure Solar. How about that? I think it's great that anybody would want to reproduce. I mean, what a labor, how labor intensive that must have been. I mean, just to create a very basic game for an old console seems like it would be a monumental task in programming. Programming language. That's why they call it programming language, because nobody understands it. I mean, it just seems like one of those difficult things to do that when it's done right, I mean, I don't think anybody can really appreciate what it takes to program an RPG. The hours and hours of gameplay in here. I mean, when you played a game like Final Fantasy on the Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy 2, and next thing you know, you on the clock you had 40 hours buried in it. 40 hours of exploring this land. Somebody had to program that. I mean, to the very pixel. How long did that take? To develop the characters, draw them out, digitize them, design them, and then put in all the various animations of them in there. Anyway, guys. Wow, there you have it. I mean, I'm not going to lift it up again. There you have it. Trevor, I want to say thank you so much. You really hooked us up, and you were really super generous to invite me in on that deal. I really appreciate it. I owe you big time, brother. That's Trevor for TopLoadedGaming. Go check out his channel. Go say hi to Trevor. It would mean a lot to the show. Thanks, buddy. I'm BitHead1000. You just tuned into the greatest video game program in the history of human civilization. And you better believe that. With a 4K face! We'll see you next time.